And we're back. Welcome to the Weekly Roundup, the place where we unpack what's been going on in the yoga and wellness world and what we've been coaching our clients through. Today, you just have the OGs. It's the Josh and Terri Show. Carol,
Hey,
the mysterious Carol, is having an excellent adventure in Paris. And then Bridget is in the air flying back to Edinburgh because her sister just had a baby. And Maria is probably out hiking somewhere. So
probably
probably
hiking it or
either that
biking or both.
or both,
Yeah,
or maybe she's teaching a yoga class. Anyway, so Josh,
let's kick
let's kick it.
it.
Let's kick it.
Teachers,
Teachers, our favorite topic.
I mean, it really is. Sometimes I think, man, we talk way too much about staff and teachers and stuff, but then you realize,
It's a
like, the
service
entire,
business.
it's a service business. The entire product is your teachers.
Yeah.
I mean, not in your entire product, it's the whole experience, but like, teachers are a huge component.
The class product is part
Yeah,
of the class experience product. So they
yeah,
definitely are responsible for the class product problem. And I'll kick it off with, I had two separate conversations with clients this week. And it turns out they both use Walla. And so one of the things Walla software, is they have some really amazing teacher metrics that make it really
yeah.
simple. Other systems you can get them. It's just Walla makes it really clean and really clearly powerful. You could grab those metrics. And in both cases, this is how the conversations start. We were looking at numbers, we're looking at retent, and like, how do we, in both cases, the studio needs to increase capacity. They need to increase people coming to class, right? So their attendance, while good, we know can be better
Yeah.
and needs to be better. And so in both cases, it's like looking at it, their best teacher, their most experienced, their most senior teacher, in both cases had the lowest numbers,
Mm.
the lowest.
We see that often.
I know. And I kind of I think we solved one thing with one client, is that she was saying, I don't understand it. And she actually ended up letting him go because she tried to give him an opportunity to get his numbers up, but it just wasn't happening. And she said, and he's such a great teacher. And that's when I said, okay, stop. I got to call out. One of our things is no bullshit. We call him as we see him. And I said, is he a great teacher? And she looked at me. I said, let's look at his numbers. And when we went into Walla and looked at it, she was blown away. She was like,
Mm.
because I said, this is looking at this data. This is what I extrapolate from this data, is that has a small cohort of people that will take his class. But beyond that, and we did like 6 months worth of data. So we didn't just do a month, we did a
Yeah.
big chunk of data. And he was a full 3 people short of the studio average. I mean, he was consistently in the bottom tier of retention and class average class attendance.
Right.
And I said, my sense in this and what I'm extrapolating from this data is that you think he's a good teacher because you like the way he teaches, because he
Mm.
tends to be a little bit more challenging. And she'd had that conversation with him. I said, it sounds to me like he's more of a teacher's teacher.
Yeah.
And it
It's a
was,
good way to say it,
yeah.
the teacher's teacher idea, because I think the thing that especially in the yoga world, but I see this a lot in Pilates too. I
Mm,
did like identical conversation twice now.
yeah.
Even in the town I'm in here, there's a reformer studio and they talk like this about certain teachers. And it's like, just because you as an experienced practitioner and owner and teacher yourself prefer someone's class or get something from it or like it doesn't objectively mean that everyone does. And
And
that's it's a weird thought because you would think, your experienced practitioner yogis, if they all like this one teacher, then why wouldn't everyone? But that's just not how it works. And so this is where the data is powerful.
right.
I
And
have this debate. I have this debate with my dad actually quite a bit because he's done, I don't, a million hours in yoga teacher trainings throughout the years. So like we joke about how silly that is as a measurement of it anyways. But it's like what makes a teacher good? And well, maybe I'll let you pipe in on it. What like From a yoga
Well,
studio owner perspective, what makes a good teacher?
what makes a good teacher is a pretty simple thing. They get people to come back. Their retention is good. They interact with new clients. They understand that it is an experience and that they need to be part of that process, and yes, part of the sales process. Because in addition to we talk about this in teacher in our on-sites, our sales trainings all the time, is beyond teaching a class, the number one job of a yoga teacher is to get somebody to come back. And
Yeah,
then there's also just, I think, so there can be teachers that have great retention and everything, and that's good. But then there's other aspects of it where they're constantly pushing back and fighting and all that kind of stuff. So the other thing that I think what makes a good teacher, maybe it's good teacher and good member of the team, could be two different things, right? So I
yep,
think an all around good teacher, good staff person is one who's bought into the culture, who is performing at a higher level of caliber, is working towards that, always working to be better, and not resting on their laurels, open to feedback, and actively take the feedback and do something with it. And even
yeah.
if they might not agree with what the owners decided to do, they actively support once the decision's been made. Because I spent a lot of coaching call time listening to owners and sort of like doubting themselves because, oh, they're
Because they get
pushing back
so much staff pushback. And when we say
so much
staff,
staff
it's
pushback.
80% teachers. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's mostly teachers. Um, and and it's one thing. We had something in our team where Josh did a decision, and the coaches were like, we're really not liking that, and we expressed why, and Josh made a big change because of it. So that's different,
Yeah, you want your team to give you feedback and you
right?
want to be open to hearing it. But there's a difference between a team giving feedback on something with real, like legitimately voicing an issue or a problem or what they see as being something that could be negative for everybody, and explaining it in a respectful way. Like that's not the same thing as just pushing back on stuff, which happens all the time. Now there is a bit of a double-edged sword here. I would just add that on the owner side, it's part of your job to explain to your team and to quote sell your team on what you're doing. Like if they
So
don't
why?
get it, yeah, you got to give them the why. If they don't understand why you're doing something, and I don't mean all details on everything, you don't
Right.
owe them anything of explanation when you're running your business. It's your business. But if you want them to buy in, you have to give them enough of an understanding so that they can. And
Yeah.
so that's on the owner side. So there is a little bit of that. I think maybe to echo what you're saying and sum it up a little bit, it's like, yeah, can you get people to come back to your class as a teacher? Are you working on honing your craft and getting better? And are you a team player in the culture fit of what's going on? That would make a good yoga teacher from a studio standpoint. What's interesting about that is I think there is one more thing, is that the teacher's eh, ability to teach in the class in a really intricate way is not necessarily part of that. And I think
Correct.
that's where owners can get confused. And it's not to say that that's not valuable. So I would look at it like this. Then there's this other layer, which is, can the teacher teach? Now, in the Vishnu Ghosh world that you and I came up in a bit, and this is also true in some old books that I found uh, outside of, like, from even in the Krishnamacharya world, there's this idea of being an instructor and being a teacher. And like you
Yeah, you
can,
talk,
you're
yeah.
you're
Hmm.
only an instructor for like 10 years. And then you get to become a teacher once you've instructed enough through a sequence that you're given and a formula that you're given, because now you can actually start to teach the class in front of you. And so the idea would be once you become that full teacher, you can actively see and interact with and teach not your class, the class in front of you today. That's super valuable. And so on that path, you've got teachers who are very knowledgeable and can be very intricate in their what they're doing in the class, but it's only the advanced practitioners of the class who can receive the information,
Yeah.
and they end up abandoning part of the class.
Yep.
That's where the problem lies, because we see that a lot, that,
Yeah.
a teacher who is, quote, the hard teacher, everyone's like talks about, like they kind of become this, I don't know what, like little bit of a internal celebrity, like, oh, Terry's class is so hard. Terry teaches the hard
It's
class.
the prima donna. It's
Yeah,
the rock star. It's the whatever you want to call it. And then that I think feeds into ego. And then
right.
I mean, we're human beings, and that feeds into ego, makes us feel good. So therefore, we're going to make that behavior more so. And so then it becomes more about me teaching the class.
Mm,
Then you're not really teaching at that point. It's all show. It's
right.
performance.
It's
It's performance. It's performance teaching.
Well, it's the simple fact of like, is the class about you or about the students?
That's it.
It's
Because
really
becomes
that
about
simple.
them. It comes about
Yeah.
them. Yeah.
But
And I
this
mean,
this like hard, quote, hard teacher that everyone likes, then you go look at the numbers, like you're saying, and often they're like, yeah, sure, people who really like the class, and
he
most
alienates.
new students, yeah, most new students do not come back. You're losing them altogether.
In both cases, the one, it was a male teacher. And typically, I will say this, typically men do better just simply because they are a little bit of a unicorn. The majority of yoga teachers are women. And I've seen it,
Mm.
so there is that. And I will also say, I may blow this up here, but as a longtime practitioner, there is a definite difference between a male leading teaching a class of the male energy and the female energy.
Mm.
I've noticed that, particularly because I'm a Bikram practitioner and the series is the set is the same. And so it is I've noticed it, and you probably don't notice it because you're a man.
No, I notice it. I know what you're
But
talking about.
it's just,
Even if it's not actually a male or female, it's an energetic
it's
thing.
an
There's a
energetic
masculine,
thing.
feminine energy thing that.
Yeah. So it leaning more into that. So that aside, um, if he would, so typically a male teacher, you would expect that if he's, in a studio full of women, and he was good looking, let's just call it like it is, right? Good looking yoga teacher, and his
Can't hurt.
numbers, and he had like a 70% well, 30% first visit retention. So
Yeah.
that means for every 100 people that took his class, 70 didn't come
Leave
back at
and never
all.
fucking step foot in the studio again.
They
Yeah.
never stepped. So that's very powerful data. And the same thing with this other
Mm.
studio. It was a woman, it was a female teacher. So, and the same thing. Oh my God, the owner was like, she literally was shocked when we looked at this report because she's like, she was literally speechless. Like,
Well, here's the two questions. One is, and we do this in coaching, that you do this. If you're listening to this and you're like, okay, now I'm a little nervous because I think I have a teacher who's really good. The question is, when you say, and let me back up too, in the industry, I'm
yeah,
talking for the last fucking 10 years plus coaching full time, every fucking studio on the planet, or 95% says we got the best. Like, I'm like,
best.
what's different about you? What's special?
Oh, we
The
have the
best
best
teachers
the
and
best
the best
community.
community, always, every time.
Never
So
have I,
either,
yeah,
yeah, either everyone has the best teachers in community, which I don't know how that's true, or everyone's lying to themselves. And I think it's probably the latter. I say that a little harsh, but it's just like, you got to look at it a little more objective. Because also, if you have the best teachers and best community, if that was objectively true, then you should be fucking. How come you don't have 25 locations?
right. Why aren't you
Anyways,
crushing it?
right. I digress. The point would be, when you're thinking about, oh, we've got this teacher is a really great teacher, and it sounds weird to do this, but literally get a pen and paper out and start a bullet list. Why, right at the top, this is why Terry is an incredible yoga teacher, and start putting bullet points down.
That's a good
Like,
one.
explain it to me.
Give me
And
the
you're not
show
allowed,
me the proof.
show me the proof. And you're not allowed to put on there, they've been teaching for a long time. Says nothing about the
Irrelevant.
quality of them as a teacher.
That's
You're not
irrelevant.
allowed to put on there, well, they're a mom of three. You're not allowed to put on, he has to be in the class. What do they do? What is it about them that makes them a great teacher? Because what's funny is we say like, oh, they're a great teacher. I'm like, well, what makes them a great teacher? Well,
Everybody loves them.
everyone loves them, and they're
Wonderful
mom of
class.
three, mom of three. So like the moms like them that way, and they've been teaching for like 15 years, and it's got like 700 hours in teacher, whatever. I'm like, nothing that's come out of your mouth has anything to do with what happens in the class.
Yeah.
Zero. So what's that? Anyways, data is question number two.
Yeah. Data.
What's No, let's hang on a second. So what would make a good teacher in the class? Just this part we're talking about. Like you take a teacher's
Specific.
class and you're as a seasoned practitioner and studio owner, we're like, this is a good class objectively because they do these things. What are the things that a good teacher does?
Well, one, they teach the class they're supposed to teach, meaning if it's a slow flow, right? Meaning if it's a slow, you're laughing. You knew I was going to go there. If it's a slow flow class, they're teaching a slow flow class and they're not teaching a power yoga class. We
No,
see
I'm
that a
sorry.
lot.
It's so fucking funny to say this because it's so true.
It's so true.
The number of times I've signed up for a class that says whatever level two vinyasa class, and we get there and they're like, Trick Joe, we're gonna do a slow flow today.
Yeah.
Put a block under your spine and lay on your back. I'm like, what are we doing?
Yeah. So they teach the class that they're supposed to be teaching as prescribed, ideally in the class experience outline that your yoga studio owner has given you. So they're teaching that. And whether they're a brand new teacher or a veteran, I'm going to just say someone who's been teaching a long time, is they're creating a client experience for the people in the room. They're seeing people. Whether they know everybody's names, you can have that little moment where I look at Josh struggling like crazy in the back row, and I make eye contact with him and I just give him a little wink, or well, maybe not a wink, a little thumbs up, little okay, meaning you've got this. Because there's also a really good teacher that I've experienced in my career is able to make a correction without using the person's name, but they're giving a correction for a specific person without using their name. Because I guarantee you, and I had this happen, oh, I got to do that. They were talking to me, kind of thing.
Mm,
I
yeah,
think that a good teacher makes that personal connection. Again, it doesn't have to be named, whether they use their name or not. They make a connection with every person in the class. And I'm talking every person. If you have a 45-person class in front of you, you should be able to make a little personal connection either before, during, or after class with every person in the room. I think that is a skill that a lot of people don't utilize. And I also think that they're looking for ways to teach multiple people at the same time. Like you said, that the teacher, like, oh, they're the best teacher, is that, and this came up in a call where it was a studio, and a studio, of course, and it was their most experienced vinyasa teacher who regularly gets feedback, and that's the other thing, is open to feedback. But it's saying, oh, everybody loves her class. And so the owner asked the teacher's husband, he goes, no, I don't think so. And she said, well, why? She said, well, she was coaching us into a headstand. I'm a 260-pound dude,
mm,
not very flexible. So I just sat on my mat the whole time while she
mm,
was doing that. So that's the other thing, is that, okay, I want to coach into a headstand. Okay, if you're new to this, this is what you do. You do the setup. All I
yeah,
want you to do is this. Put your put your arms in plank position, suck your stomach and curl it like you're doing rabbit pose. If you're
yeah. Like just basically include everyone in class. Here's what
include
I'm hearing
every,
you say.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
like teach the class you're supposed to teach, engage everyone in the class, include everyone in the class in what you're doing.
yeah. And then,
Mm.
yeah, that's what I think makes a good class. And then
I
what's make
think I think the last one too is a good point because it works on the other side too. And this is where I think the confusion sometimes happens in a studio owner, where it's like you've got a group of teachers who are like pretty new, a group of teachers who are not new, but earlier in their teaching career, and then some experienced teachers. And we think that the experienced teacher is able to teach a more experienced practitioner, which is not true, but that comes from this idea that like you also can't teach the whole class to a new person. Like just because there's someone new and
Yeah.
they can't do something, you can't make the entire class lean that way either. And just because you've got one person who's super advanced, flexible, doing a one-arm handstand, you can't teach the whole class that way either. But you need to be able to teach both ends of the spectrum.
Yeah.
I think that's the like where the skill comes in.
That's where I always like to say, teach to the highest common denominator.
That's a good way to look at it.
Right. And not assuming that a new person can't do something. Like my
Yeah.
biggest pet peeve in Bikram is I hear and I know just first set of rabbit. Okay, if this is your first time, watch the first set of rabbit. Fingers on the chalkboard. Why do
Mm.
they need to watch? It's you give them the cues. It is
Just
it is
follow the
a
instructions. Yeah.
command style teaching. We
Yeah.
give directed cues. So why do people say that? And
You
so,
know, that brings up another piece of the puzzle here. I would say the best teachers that I've taken class from ever, like in my entire
oh,
practice ever, they don't teach scared.
uh,
Like there's a
yeah,
definite, and I you almost can't exactly put your finger on what that is. Like, because how do you do that? Like there's some, it's not an egotistical thing, it's a
no.
confidence thing, but you can feel it and then you just trust them and follow the class, even if it's insane. And there's not a single word, and I do mean not a single word. There's no suggestion, there's no excuse. They have no fear in what they're teaching.
And I
That
think
same teacher, one of those teachers takes your 260-pound dude who's never done a headstand and gets them into a headstand if they want to. Not
if
only
he's
because they're skilled, if he's capable, of course, but like
right, but
not
they
only
get
because
them
they're
into at least
skilled
the
at
beginning of it.
instruction.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And so
It's
I
because
think good.
it's like an energy piece of the puzzle too. Yeah.
Well, I think that it's they don't teach scared, and I think they also teach from a perspective of everybody. They're teaching from the perspective. I think everybody can do this, as opposed to I don't think someone can do something because I do think that when that's you need
Yes.
to if you need to watch,
Yes.
that's saying don't try
That's the teach
this.
scared. That's the
That's
teach
the teach
scared.
scared, and whether they realize it or not, it's like okay, this 260-pound dude as first class, never seen. We're doing a headstand. I'm gonna I'm I'm just going to assume that he can do this. And maybe
Yeah.
what I assuming what I know he can do the first part. I know that he's here in a yoga class, so he has some mobility. I know he can put his arms on the ground and kneel on his knees, put his head down and pull his belly in. I know he can do that. And
Yeah.
that's what I'm going to. So I think that's part of it is when you're teaching to assuming that everybody can do everything. And I'm not saying, I'm just saying when you don't go with the mindset of, oh, because they're new, they can't do it. I hear this all the time. I like talking like more so in some, Bikram world, but vinyasa. It's like, oh, we don't really recommend this class for people who are brand new beginners. And I'm like, okay, it's like open to all level. And I said, really, are you telling me? And if they say that on the, are you telling me that if a brand new person walked into Josh's class, that he couldn't teach that person? He couldn't get help, even if it's a more challenging class. I mean, I had a dude show up first class. He happened to show up for our advanced series. Bikram, there's an
Yeah.
advanced series of Bikram yoga. It's 84 postures. It's typically 2 hours. It's an intense class. And this dude had never done Bikram before. Never, not even Bikram. And I said,
Yeah.
I'm happy you're here. I said, here's the thing. This is an advanced level. You are welcome to stay. We do all the 26 postures and additionals, and it moves a little bit different than our regular class. So you're welcome to stay. And here's the thing, if something, there's not a lot of instruction in this class, so follow along, I'll keep my eye on you. And if you need to sit out, go ahead and sit out and watch. And after class, he's like, wow, that was great. I said, now you got to come back and take the beginner's class. And he did the
Yeah,
next day.
now there's regular class tomorrow. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's the thing. This idea of advanced class too, and teachers talking that way, this ties to this teaching scared thing. There's these weird narratives. There is the scenario where you have a class that is quote advanced and has a prerequisites to go
yeah.
into it. That
That's
that
a
does
little different.
exist.
That,
That does exist in the yoga world. But
yeah,
then you need to say that, and then it should be like you really, really enforce on it. And that's also probably not a regular public facing class. Like that's a different thing
yeah, it's
altogether.
probably like a
But
series class or something.
it's also rare. You know,
Yeah.
like vinyasa level one, level two. I think the thing that part of this teaching scared elements, like where the conversation leads my mind, is okay, someone shows up for their first time ever. It's a level two class, but like you can't manage them. Only they can do that. So like they haven't even taken class yet. You don't know anything about it. So I why unless you think they're going to get hurt, which is really only in a few postures and it's highly unlikely, and you would have to just give them instruction on it. Just let them have their experience.
Yeah.
Keep them safe, but let them have their experience. Theoretically, is the way that you could approach it. Like instead of being like, oh, let me plant the seed of you should be terrified of taking this
Oh,
class.
I don't know. You've
This
never
is
done
an
yoga
advanced
before.
class, you know. Yeah.
I mean,
I
and
think
yeah,
the two things that come up for me is one, this idea that in the class, out of the class, around the class, on your website, all this stuff, everything you say is a suggestion. And so when a lot of what you're saying is be careful, fear-based, whatever else, like that's the seed that you're planting. And somehow, especially right now, what I'm seeing when we're traveling to studios too, is this seems to come up under the guise of inclusivity.
mm,
And being inclusive and softening things to accommodate people, being inclusive and general complete accommodation, like abandoning the core product itself, are not the same thing.
yes, I would agree. Because yes, if you have that clear explanation, if it truly is a level two, prior yoga, you could make it, like you said, a prerequisite. And in some softwares, you actually, you can't, it's like you set the class up, and if they haven't taken the level one or whatever, they can't even register, but that's a whole different thing. But yeah, be very, very clear. This is not for beginners. This requires yoga experience,
Yeah.
ability to do whatever.
Or whatever. This is
Yeah,
when we go back to what makes a good teacher, teach every person in the class. Teach your level two class. But in order to be a teacher who's allowed to teach a level two class in a studio that I would have, you have to be capable of on the fly teaching the person who can't do the level two
right,
posture.
right. You say,
If you
hey,
can't teach that, if you can't teach the class and teach that person at the same time, you can't teach a level two class. You're not an advanced teacher,
right,
is the
100%,
thought.
100%.
Here's the other thing, just generally, what makes a good teacher? This has come up a lot. And let me say for anyone listening to in any studio, right now, especially the yoga world is going through this the most. And it's a good example because bar is also like they're starting this. I see it. Pilates, it hasn't started yet. I'm telling, dude, if you own a Pilates studio, reformer, megaformer, Legree, whatever, I'm telling you, right, Matt Pilates, even, I'm telling you, it's fucking coming. This is coming. There is an identity crisis in the yoga world. We've talked about it a lot. And part of it is because we've lost all definition of a yoga class completely inside a studio. And so the result of that is things like this, where then you have teachers who are really just teaching kind of whatever they think or want, and there's no specific strategy, et cetera, et cetera. This expands out. The point I'm getting to here is you have a product problem. And a lot of
Yes,
people we're coaching, that's what we end up with is we're like, well, all this other stuff is happening. Like there's no objective reason looking at this business why you should, like why you can't go from 500,000 to 1 million in this business. There's no objective reason why, like you're doing okay at 20 grand MRR, but that you couldn't be at 40. There's no reason for that. Everything else is in place. And if you keep whittling it down, you end up at product. And so that's where we start looking at the classes quite a bit. The teachers are the delivery method of the product, so they're very often one of the first components in the conversation. This is long-winded, Terry, I promise. Just stay with me here. So then, what is it? Like if we're giving feedback to a teacher, there's feedback when they're kind of fresh out of training for the first, let's call it even, the timeline doesn't matter, but it's very often like the first year to 2 years,
yeah,
where
I
you're
think that
just
is dependent. I think that, just I'll interject real quick, Josh, is depending on how many classes they teach.
right. We could say instead it's the first 100 to 200
Yeah,
classes would
I
be
think that's a better way to put it. Yeah.
a better way to put it, you know? And then there's personality and what mentorship and how much work they put into it, of course, plays into that too. But the idea would be like a level one teacher teaches a good class, which means they can control the class, they can pay attention to everyone, they teach the class sequencing well. Like it's a good class. And level one teachers, this is not to say that they're lesser than. Sometimes your level one teacher in the numbers is the fucking rock star teacher. It's a weird thing. We'll go back to
Yeah.
that in a second. But a level two teacher, by our definition now, is someone who can deliver a compelling class.
Yeah.
And that's our like theme word, I think, the second half of the year this year. It's
Yeah,
one
I
that
think it should be
makes
a one for
students,
2026. I think it should be all the way through
yeah.
2026. So I think it's compelling.
Oh, I'm sure it
It's
will. Yeah.
yeah,
Compelling is you teach a class that makes students want to come back, buy a membership, and bring their friend.
yeah.
Like compelling isn't like, I liked the class, I would go back, maybe I will go back, I feel
It's
good
like I'm
afterwards.
booking it on my way out the door.
Yeah, level two is you are in the change room on the app booking your next fucking class to make sure you get a slot. Again, that's a compelling
Now
class.
you're booking out the entire booking window, whatever the booking window is, you're
Yeah.
booking that teacher's class every week. Now, another thing that I think here's another sort of thought on this, two thoughts. Um, well, first thought first, when you said the softening, and
Mm,
I really do agree. In fact, I had a conversation with a client yesterday, and they are originally a Bikram studio. Now they still do original hot yoga as well as some other modalities. And she's really in the thick of the defining their product, getting that nailed down, and doing reviews with her team and taking their classes and all that stuff. Um, and she's like, I can't quite put my finger on. She has 3 new Bikram teachers, and that went through her training. She said, I can't quite put my finger on what it is. And what we did, what we decided, what we landed on after sort of going back and forth about it is they've softened it.
yeah.
They've softened it and not it, yes, there's all, if you're not, I'm sure those of you who aren't Bikram out there listening, you're thinking of all the tales of the torture chamber and its hell and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, we've earned that reputation for sure, because there are people out there that do that. But a Bikram class is supposed to be challenging, even for a brand new person.
It's supposed to be hard. That's
It's
literally the
supposed to,
prescription of the class.
yeah, it's
But that's
supposed
not
to be
that's not a
hard.
Bikram thing either. That's not a
Well,
Bikram thing. You take a Baptiste class, I
oh
said one
yeah.
of them is a great example. Like because a Baptiste class incorporates so many different things,
Mhm.
but like just a level one Baptiste class, it's a fucking hard class. It's
It's supposed
supposed
to
to
be
be
hard.
hard.
It's
It's
supposed to
supposed to
be
be
hard.
hard.
It's supposed to, regardless of everybody, right? It's supposed to
Yep.
be hard. It's supposed to challenge you mind and body. And so that's what we landed on. It's like she said, we just realized, she said, one teacher is just waiting a little bit too long to go into the second set.
Mm.
One teacher is taking a little bit too long in between postures, or, and so it was just, we nailed it because, and that was the case. It was just, they sort of had softened it down, and maybe it's because they're fearful, and that could be part of it too.
It's
So,
just, it's not fearful like it is, but it's not fearful like a conscious thing. It's a
yeah,
subconscious thing. And I don't know with these teachers or whatever, but like in mentorship, one thing that I would say to a teacher around this at some point when it's appropriate and our relationship supports it, it's like, what are you teaching from? Because the fear, what's the fear? Like if you're trying to soften things and you're teaching, well, that person this, like one, you're projecting onto them. Did they
yeah,
say that? Did they like what did they actually do objectively, or is this just the narrative in your head?
your head.
And then you realize that most of the fear is coming from your own fear of someone judging you, because then you would judge yourself and you are scared of that. That's what you're scared of. It's hidden, and this sounds assholey, I know. It's hidden under the guise of like, well, I don't want to annoy Josh in my class. Why? And who you can't decide whether like, of course you don't want to be rude to someone, but like, it's not your job to manage me and my emotional state. It's your job to teach the yoga class. Now, where the line is that going back to the Beacon world, this weird militant hardcore thing where it's like teachers weren't able to discern and then uh, filter when someone was doing exactly what we say in a yoga class, which is like taking care of themselves, and then you like give them shit for it, you reprimand them.
Yeah.
That's bullshit. Any teacher
Yeah.
does that, you're fucking fired in my studio. But it's like, that doesn't mean that you soften it for everyone. Anyways, I
Right.
digress. I think on the whole yoga industry, and I do mean whole, there is no yoga class that's an exception to this. I'm talking the most relaxative, nighttime spa yoga nidra class, same thing. Something compelling has to happen. And so the word that I would use around the hard or not hard is intensity.
Yeah.
Whatever style you're talking about, yoga has lost a lot of the time intensity. Also, let's take this to the Pilates world. One of the interesting things that has been popular in the last years, well, 5+ years, is Inferno Hot Pilates. And there's a few reasons for that. Now, if you ask an OG Pilates practitioner, they're like, that's not Pilates. And it's because it's based on Pilates principles. It's not trying to be Pilates in the first place. But the closest comparison to that would have been mat Pilates.
Hmm.
I don't know if you've ever taken a mat Pilates class, Terry, but like the
Yes.
risk of it, without talking shit, is we basically just fucking do nothing. Like there's, and I'm saying that hardcore because I'm amped up in the conversation, but it's like, it's a class where everything you're doing is good for your body and can be really intense and hard work, but it's often taught in just like a really soft way. And you just walk out like, that was cool, but there's nothing compelling about it because it lacks in intensity. And so the reason I make this comparison is that that's the part that Inferno Hot Pilates added in,
Hmm.
was it just made it really intense, and suddenly that boomed and sort of took off or whatever. That's a little bit same as Legree versus Reformer. Reformer's hard if you do it right, if the teacher makes it intense. But Legree, when you take like a class or megaformer classes in some of these classes, like they're inherently more intense because of the way it goes. And so the point would be there's a lot of judgment around like what is or isn't Pilates, what is or isn't yoga, what's traditional or not, whatever, whatever. But this softening inclusivity thing, when it removes the intensity, there's a direct correlation, in my opinion, between a lack of intensity and a lack of participation in the student base.
Yeah, because just because you're intense does not mean you're not inclusive.
No, not at all. Quite the opposite.
Yeah. In fact,
And look,
you're empowering. It's actually more empowering.
it's kind of as simple as this. If I get my ass all the way to whatever your product is and do the class, like something should happen.
Yeah.
There's classes here. My dad and I went to a holotropic breathing class
Oh, what?
recently. Holotropic breathing.
Okay.
It's kind of cool. Comes out of the 70s. It's basically a special it's a very simple like pranayam, like just equal faster breathing.
Is
But
it
then
like coming out of the Timothy Leary? Do you know who Tim? Your
yeah,
dad would. Your
yeah,
dad would
it
totally do it.
does.
Yeah.
It does. And it's off the back of the founders like LSD experiments.
Yeah. Well, that's what I
Yeah.
said. Yeah, that's why I said. As soon
Yeah.
as you said, I went, oh, Timothy Leary.
Yeah. The point is the breath technique is extremely simple and you just lay there and breathe. But what's intense about it is then they crank music and there's a specific style and way the music goes. So it like vibrates your body. And when you breathe, and then you do it for like the full holotropic breathing thing is like 2 to 3 hours long. Now, class is only 1 hour. But I'm telling you, dude, you get in there, if you commit, eyes closed, let the music take you, and then do this breathing and just don't give up on the breathing, weird shit starts happening. It gets intense, which is cool. And you feel like something has happened afterwards. You can't even explain what it is. The point being, this is the perfect example of like you're literally laying on the floor, just
Breathing,
breathing.
listening to music.
That's it, listening to music, and your fucking life changes. That's it because it's intense.
Oh, but now that you did
Yeah.
that, I did that. I went to in Bali in 2018. I went to the Isak Garcia's E84 intermediate
Hmm.
advanced training for Bikram. And one night we did that, and it was intense. It was
Yeah.
almost like I didn't like it intense kind of thing. My friend that I went with, she wouldn't even talk. She was like, she left and she just like this. I said, how was it?
Yeah.
She just went like this, don't talk to me. And she later told me after we got, and she was really, it was right before the end of the retreat. It was like 2 or 3 days before the retreat was done. And it really, like the last couple of days, I could see she was like really in a different space because of it. And then she later told me what it brought up all of this intensity. She'd always had a very complicated relationship with her mother. And so she said that it brought up
It all came up.
she
Yeah.
said all of this stuff came up for her. And she just was like, she said that I just was like, I didn't even know how to deal with it at that point. So it was interesting.
Mm.
Now that you
I
say,
mean, pranayama, there's a whole tangent here. We can go on the yoga side of things, but like pranayama is there's a reason why in the 8 limbs of yoga, if you subscribe to that branch, that pranayama is not number one. It's the third thing that you work on. And it's because
it's so
it's
intense.
intense. It
Yeah.
like really does something. Anyways, I digress. The point here would be intensity in your class. That's the compelling part. If something doesn't happen, it can be a yin class, it can be a restorative class, it can be a flow class, it can be a slow flow class. Power flow is a good example. Power flow doesn't move that quick. I mean, power flow is used in a lot of different ways, but like the first versions of it, the key was power flow doesn't move fast, but the intensity is in the isometrics of it. The intensity is in the power of the postures. Or then, not that long ago, I was at a studio where they've kind of formulated their own version of a flow class. They come out of the Ashtanga world, and it moves lightning fast. Like the first class, I couldn't keep up, sort of thing. And I was like, I don't even know if I like this. But 3 or 4 classes in, I'm like, this is actually really dope. You just have to do it a little bit. But the point is, then it's intense in that way. So intensity looks different, but I think that's a component that's not just a good idea. It's a necessity of a quality class. And I think teachers and studios in general are shying away from it in a lot of these
Yeah.
products.
Well,
Okay,
I think,
Terri,
okay,
talk to me about numbers. Talk to me about numbers. What are the metrics, KPIs, key performance indicators, that we would use to objectively look at what's
teachers.
happening for a teacher as a bit of I don't like the word judgment, but just like a truth point, something to look at that's more objective reality on
Oh,
what's happening with their
right.
classes.
Well, very obvious ones are capacity fill rate. Are there class, let's say you have a 30 person, you have a 30-person room, and what is their average attendance in their class?
Okay, hang on. Let's do these one at a time because
Okay.
I know immediately a listener is going to say this. Yeah, but
Oh, because
Terri,
of the
what
class
if they
time.
teach the
If
class
they teach a
time?
6
That's not a
a.m.
busy, 6
I,
a.m. is not a busy
and
class.
here's what I'm going to say. Here's what I say. Bullshit. I say this with a little bit tongue in cheek, but I absolutely say it because uh, we have clients. There are plenty of studios that have 5:30, 5:30, 6:30 a.m. classes 5 days a week.
Slammed,
They're slammed.
slammed. Like
And
if you're listening to this and you're a new studio, slammed.
yes, like
40
full,
40 people full every
full,
single day,
single
five
day.
days a week, like
It
most of
ebbs
the
and
year.
flows, ebbs and flows, but consistently has
Yeah.
a 70, 80% attendance or higher. Obviously sometimes completely full. And I always said that I used to think that, and then I started as when I used to think that in my own studio, and it's kind of like shame on me now. And now that I've, the more you know kind of thing. And I look at some of the studios I've been working with in the last almost 5 years, and I realize something. It's like when you set the bar high, people rise to it, right? When you make it a
Yeah.
priority. And I had one client, we have one client who is a longtime YC member. I think she's been to every single summit that we've had, and her business has grown exponentially over the years. Is that she set one of her target goals for a couple of years ago was that every class would have an average of 70% capacity for the average capacity,
Yep.
even her OG Bikram classes.
Yeah.
91.
Morning
And guess
classes, all styles, all times.
all
Yep.
styles, all modalities, all styles, all times. Guess what?
She hit it.
She hit it, and and here's the thing. It's like kind of like once someone broke, was it Roger Bannister or Barrister? Once he broke the 4 minute mile, it took
Yeah.
how many years in human history to break the 4 minute mile? Once the 4 minute mile was broken, within the following year, like 6 other people. And now we're
Yep.
chasing a 3 minute mile,
Yep.
right? So
Yep.
they proved that they could do it. So
Yep.
that going back to let's teach the highest common denominator. Let's set our standards at the highest common. We might not be there yet, but why accept it? And is it a product problem? Is it a teacher problem? What can we do to get attendance up in those classes? Now, it truthfully could be that maybe your community isn't an early AM community. Maybe
That's
not.
true.
It could be.
You might not be the market for an early morning class, but that's a different thing than the
That's
teacher.
a different thing.
Hmm.
It's a different thing.
There's still, I want to add to this, Terry, two things. There's still the thought, and this is for any class time, but 6 a.m. is a great example. Like, think about what goes through someone's head. Dude, our last studio was in like middle northern, not northern Canada, but like middle way up Canada. It's minus 40 Celsius with permanent ice on the ground in the wintertime. And it's not just pitch black at a 6 a.m. class, it's pitch black all the way till you come out plus 2 more hours. Like it's the fucking middle of the night, basically. 30 people, 5 days a week. Average over a 5 year time horizon was 20 people in that class. Now, that's not me flexing, although sure it is a little bit. It's because that class became this like story that we had. We put a teacher in that class at one point. This only happened once because we were smart about it. And their class specifically, they taught like a Tuesday, Thursday split at the 6 a.m., started going down. And so I started going to their class at 6 a.m., which I hated with little kids at the time and stuff too. But I was like, okay, what's happening with this
Happen.
class? And the bottom line is there were lots of adjustments for their class. So let's not go down that rabbit hole. But it was a good example of had that teacher have been the 6 a.m. teacher, and had I have not already known that this class can perform, then I might have said like, oh, but at 6 a.m. because they didn't even try to say that because they knew all the other 6 a.m.s are full. It's like their class was deteriorating. People were not coming to their
Coming
class
to
at
their
6 a.m.
class.
And so
Product problem.
product problem. Anyways, part two of this would be market aside, if you're looking at a teacher standpoint, if you want to have a fair judgment point of fill rate on a class time, compare the fill rate of the class time versus that class time over the last like whole year.
Yeah.
So whether it's 6 a.m., 9:30 in the morning, 5 p.m., whatever, you can compare to the whole studio and you can compare your total fill rate as percentage, but then it's a little more laborious, but you just do it maybe once a year to get an idea. Like what's the average for our 5:30 p.m. class in the last 365 period? And then you have a baseline to go off of.
Yeah. Yes.
Because then you're 6
100%.
a.m., you're like, okay, we've only ever averaged 10. And so even if Terry's fill rate is lower than I want it to be, but her average is 15, she's actually doing better than our average. So then, great.
Yeah. So yeah. So fill rate. There's ways expectations, raise the bar, find out what the problem is. Is you're not an early AM studio? That's a different, as Josh said. Is it, and Josh, if every other class is performing well and another teacher's not, it's not the time, it's the teacher. And that's a hard
Yeah.
reality. So that's a real good one for teachers. It's a very simple one. Most softwares will track it, some better than others. And then the other one is what we call the return rate, first is a return rate. Because this is a really good, I think this circles all the way back to when we talked at the top of the hour about these excellent, awesome teachers that were sucked at first visit retention. So that's another important one because that tells you how does this teacher do with new people? Because as we know, it's like it's a funnel. Our businesses should be a funnel. There's always going to be people trickling out. It's just the way it happens. And so you always got to have new people coming in because people are going to go out. For every membership, like your net membership. Some months I have clients whose net memberships is a loss. Yeah, we got 80 new members, but guess what? We lost 85, right? So there's always that attrition factor. So looking at if they're not coming back to that teacher's class after their first visit at all, and in the softwares you can look at it in different ways, but typically it's like, did they come back to anybody's class?
Mm.
And these
Yeah.
teachers still sucked. So that meant they had such a piss poor experience in the class that they didn't come back. And now I can hear people say now, oh yeah, but we live in a tourist area, we get lots of drop-ins.
So yeah, no, you don't.
It's like, yes, yeah. I mean, it's like, that's again, you're making an excuse. You as the owner are giving them an out. And yes, there are. So maybe in your area, yes, maybe you're like in a San Diego, California, or you are in a popular tourist spot. You may have more drop-ins filter in than normal, but I guarantee you it's not going to take someone from a first visit return rate of like the 70% are not coming back to 40% are not coming out with drop. That's not going to make that. It's only going to move the needle maybe a point or two. It's no, we're not talking. It's going to happen.
Well, also, Terri, I've got to say, people don't like to hear this, but there are exceptions. There's no rules. This is not a blanket statement for 100% of cases. But even if you live in a there are some specific areas that are super touristy, but like, even if you live in a pretty tourist area, a pretty transient area, the thing that you're not calculating on is most tourists who are just on vacation don't fucking go do a yoga class. Like, that's not what they're doing on vacation. And so unless you are tracking very diligently who's coming in on that first visit and you can objectively say, hey, 40% of people coming in do not live here, are only here for a 3-day holiday, and that's who it is. Unless you can prove that, that argument is
Void.
pretty soft, if not void. Yeah. It's
Okay,
not that
and
there's
here's
no truth, it's possible, but like, no.
okay, and if you're listening to this and thinking, well, how do I know? Because most people aren't putting addresses and things like that when they sign up. Very, very simple way to know when they walk in. Hey, Josh, welcome to Nomad Yoga. Did you register online?
Yeah, I did.
I see you did our drop-in. We're so happy you're here. Actually, to start, what most people do is our intro special. And because you are here today, you can get 1 month of unlimited yoga for just $25.
Oh, that sounds good, but honestly, I'm here from Mexico. I leave tomorrow on a plane. I'm never going to come back again,
All
ever.
right, no problem. We're so happy you're here. Hey, if you know anybody, met anybody in town, let them know about this amazing deal we
Mm-hmm.
have.
Mm-hmm.
Right,
Dude,
so then,
total
oh, wait,
tangent,
wait,
but
wait.
that's the money. Yeah,
That's
go
the money.
ahead.
But here, let me follow up on this. So here's the tactic for that. If you are doing that and you are pitching your intro offer to every drop-in, and just for context, the number I came up with of $25 is I'm going to say my drop-in is $30. So I am just going to charge them the difference between my drop-in and what my intro offer is. So
Yeah.
that's where that number comes from, just for context. So then what happens is your front desk has what we call a conversion tracker sheet. And I put on my tracker sheet, Josh Bureau, this class, this day, did they buy the intro? No. Reason why? Lives out of town.
Yeah. That's the best way to get the fullest data because you
Yep.
can write something in. And hey, just a side note, like people's memories work. Most people sign into a class 15 minutes before, 20 at max. And so they don't have to do that in real time if you're like, oh, but they're so busy, they can't do that. No, once the class goes in, then record that stuff if you need to.
Yes.
But if you want an alternative way that's less detailed, but would give you just the hard data, have in your system a different drop-in. And it sounds weird, but you would have a drop-in called Traveler Drop-in. You can't buy it online. It's just, I mean, you could, but the point would be what we would do is then actually refund the drop-in they bought and repurchase them, like just onto their accounts, the refund, and repurchase them the Traveler Drop-in. Because then in your reports, you can
Ah,
ask
I
the
like that.
question, who bought a Traveler Drop-in? who bought a regular drop-in, and you can filter it out.
I like that.
Yep.
That's a good one.
You have to have a team your system has to do that smoothly, and you have to have a team that is comfortable with that, but it's not hard. And then you get like really objective data. You just need the line for like when do you sell this traveler drop-in to be ultra clear. Like do not fucking sell this to someone who doesn't fit this criteria, sort of
Right.
thing.
It's just like a traveler, and
Yeah.
then you just
Yeah.
do it when they go into class.
Yeah.
Oh, I
Okay,
like that.
other
Okay.
metrics, other metrics that I think, so this return rate or retention rate of first visit and then retention rate of regular clients as well, I think is a good one. So there's two other client groups, and not all systems show you this
Yeah.
perfectly, but client group A would be, am I prioritizing coming to Terry's class, which says that Terry has kind of a following. That's not inherently negative. It just means like I'm going to calibrate my life to Terry's class because I really like that class. Good. If that's a couple days a week, like that's membership right there. Good for me. And so it does say something that a teacher has a high enough proclivity, a high enough quality that there's a group of people that want to go to them. How big is that number? And
Yeah.
is it happening at all? So that's one. But then the reverse of that, which you have to, if you're going to pull that one, you have to pull this one, is
Watch that finger there, dude. You went like
unique
that.
people. Yeah. Unique people,
Yeah.
unique individuals coming to the class. That's a hard number or to like, I guess, give responsibility to the teacher around. But part of it is it says this teacher teaches a class where people are bringing other people to the class, or this teacher teaches a class that there's enough word of mouth that people are coming to the class. And they're functions of each other. If you have a lot of people sort of coming back to your class, then they tell other people, so you get more unique people, which means you get more people coming back to your class.
Yeah.
Those two numbers are really interesting to look at.
And if you're thinking, what does that mean for context? Let's say you have a teacher that in a month period had 100 visits to their class, like 100 people came to their class. And then if you look at the unique people and they have 15, that's not so good.
Right.
Very
And then the
worse.
retention, these are a little of a triangle here because then the retention rate comes back in. Because it's interesting. If you were to say, okay, Terry, you saw 50 unique people take your class in the last month, and Carol saw 200 unique people take a class last month, and your retention rate of unique of first visits, because that's the uniques are going to be in that
Mhm.
group, is 50, and Carol's is
20.
20. Not only is this Carol's worse percentage wise, but we're talking about the opportunity was exponentially bigger. Like Carol is a double issue at that point.
Right.
Or if yours is 90% retention rate of new people, but you only saw 5 uniques, so it's like 4 of them came back because of whatever, you get a false positive
Yeah.
as well. So it's why these numbers are good. Then the last one would be, and so I want to end us off with like, what do you do with this stuff? The last one would be uh, revenue per class or profitability per class, which
Yeah. I was just,
not all systems do a good job of showing you. But this is where knowing your finance side, knowing your P&L, having the ability to get into your QuickBooks or whatever and make some of these calculations really does matter.
yeah. And I think there are like, I know that Walla does that. That's another thing in Walla that does really well.
Wallet has that report is the best one in the industry, that
That
one
it's,
report.
yeah,
Yeah.
if you're a Walla user, and then the client I was working with yesterday, now granted, she just switched to Walla last year, but she didn't even know this report existed. So this was the
Yeah.
homework item I gave her. And anybody who's listening to this, I'm going to give you this homework item, regardless of the system you're on. You have to go in and run every single report your system offers and see what is in that report.
Just see what it tells you.
See what
Yeah.
it tells you and run it and play with it. Because the client was saying, I just don't even know where to start. I said, this is, I don't understand all these reports. I said, this is how you learn it. I said, how I got really good at Mindbody and Walla and Arquetta and Moments and all their reports is I do so many KPIs that I had to go in and learn the systems. And so I said, this, if you just go in and poke around, and when I use Mindbody, and that's how I learned Mindbody reports, right? You just
Yeah.
have to go in and poke around. And yes, it takes some time, but there are some gems of reports in each of these softwares. And the one in
Yep.
Wallet specifically, if you go into the classes tab under financials, reports, classes, and then our clients, it says teacher ranking. You click on that, it lists the teachers. And then if there's a hyperlink, if you click on, let's say here's Josh, if you click on that, it takes you to a page for just Josh, and you can do it. You can do a time frame there. It shows you the retention. It shows you the average, the teacher's average class per people per class versus the studios, and it also gives you the financial data right
Yeah.
there in one page. It's a powerful report. So, yeah, again, if you're listening to this,
It's
check this out.
honestly, yeah, if you're on Walla listening to this, honestly, like I can't even possibly say enough how potentially powerful this reporting is because we would do this anyways and we coach
Yeah,
towards this anyways. It's just so fucking easy.
easy.
Like why you wouldn't look at this every month, even maybe more, like is it's not just looking at it. It's like it's the baseline piece of the puzzle for there to be 50 other systems and to make everything so much stronger in your studio. And it's the thing that no one is really leveraging nearly enough.
And this is what you can tie into your performance reviews, your check-in reviews with your teachers. And it
Yeah.
also is a cool thing because then you can actually show them you're making progress.
Yeah.
And particularly if you have some type of performance-based pay structure that's tied to metrics, then that makes it even a more powerful tool. Because if I want to get to that top tier, I need to have these metrics. Okay, now I have a way I can look and see as a teacher, what do I need to do? Now I know that to get that top tier pay rate, I have to have this attendance and I have to have this retention. If I'm a good teacher, I'm going to work to get there
Yeah.
so that I
Yeah.
can
You
get
give me
that.
something to work towards.
You
You give
give
me an
me something
objective.
to work towards.
This is the thing, teachers on the teacher side too, and it's not their fault. It's like an industry thing. I was guilty of this early on in teaching as well. It's like you teach for a while and then you get kind of bored and then I'm going to try this, I'm going to try that. And then their solution to getting better at teaching is not to look at this. It's not to hone their craft. It's not to learn more about whatever, whatever. It's to go take another teacher training,
Yeah.
which like that's not inherently bad, but it's just like, so what? Like, did you actually learn something more? Not probably not really. There's all sorts of teachers that have got letters after their name, and I know a couple
Alphabet
that they've
soup.
they've come out of a 2-year teacher therapy course at a literal certified university and everything else, and their public facing yoga class is shit. They know everything about everything. They should run a podcast on it because like they're the most exciting person to talk to about yoga on an individual level, maybe they're good, but in a public class, like that is a different skill. Okay, let's finalize this. So, what do you do with the data then? Because you were saying show it to the teachers or whatever. I agree with this. I feel like one of the most wildly underutilized things that you can do from any system is you pull some of this data we're talking about, and then you can actually give it to your teachers.
Share it with them.
And if it's me, this is my technique. I would share some data individually, but I would have some really important data that I would share in a group setting, like quote publicly, but publicly to the staff. We would do, for example, your teacher retention rates of new people versus existing people, like new to your class, not new to the studio. No, we did new to the class, new to the studio too. New to the studio, new to your class, even if it's not their first time at the studio, and ongoing people. Those are your 3 retention percentages. And we would post them on a board and put them in the staff room once a quarter. You didn't get in trouble for anything. We didn't, whatever. If you're on, after a while, if you were on the top, you got a little prize. It was always a random thing. But I'll tell you what, there was not one time in a decade that someone was at the bottom of that board 2 times in a row. Zero. Because you don't fucking want to be on the bottom of that board. As soon as everyone else knows, like as soon as you're transparent to that level, and this might sound whatever, but I don't know. It works. It's like you don't want to be on the bottom of the board. Then we added in a solution amongst many that was really easy that helps the team actually congeal around this because it's like you're not going to get fired if you're at the bottom. You're not like getting a raise because you're at the top. We're a team of teachers. And so let's all get better at this. And so one of the things that we would do would say, if you're at the top, Terry, and I'm at the bottom, we called it shake hands, as you know the term. I would have to go and take your class and be there like 30 minutes before class and 30 minutes afterwards to see what you do outside of the room. And then you would come and take mine. And then we would just sit down and have coffee. And we would like buy them, give them a coffee certificate to go do it or whatever. Like, what did you see in my class? What was your experience in both ways? And that was weirdly powerful because we really specifically instructed them in the idea that like this isn't feedback in the way that we do it. This is just
Peer to
what was
peer.
your like you just peer to peer, what did you experience? What was this like? Like knowing now that you have the highest retention and I have the lowest, what do I see? Let's just talk about it. And vice versa. No one was ever at the bottom two times in a row, 2 quarters in a row.
I also want to share, I have a lot of clients that every month they're sharing, because like a lot of the main data, like you said, quarterly, but on a monthly basis with the teachers, they're sharing with with their team the number of new members they got and the number of lost members they got. Because
Yeah.
that's directly, and that can,
Oh,
like I said, that can be a gut punch. It's like, wow, we're a net down 10 members. We lost more members than we got. And
yeah.
so that can be a gut punch. And so that's a good one to share. And this is just, it's not individually, it's just as a group. And then the other one is, what was our conversion rate
Yep.
to our goal offer? Because they're the ones that can push those fence sitters. Like if it's like, oh, I'm not sure if I want to do that. Well, tell you what, why don't you take the class and we'll chat afterwards, right? So they definitely,
Mm.
that can be what makes somebody go. Never had, in my experience, every time I did that with people, almost and like they would come out and like, oh, that was epic. What's that thing I got to get, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So the teacher is the one that can push them to the, yes, I want to do this psych, because they're teaching a compelling class for that person. So that's another good one to share with the teachers as
I
well.
agree. And that's a good team level one. I would add to this two
And
thoughts. One is that,
the first visit return rate
yeah,
goes straight
right. Yeah,
forward.
that's what we had in there
Yeah.
in the last group too. The what I would add to this, Terry, is you could add in, this is hard to get in some systems. It's easier than others. Some systems you actually can't get this at all, unfortunately. But for any of your cancellations, whoever processes them or however you look at it, you would go back and you would look at who was the teacher and what was the style of the last class that person took before they put their cancellation in. And here's why this matters. You don't do this as an individual teacher judgment point, but if you start to look at it over time, over a year, we
Maybe see
do
a
in
trend.
fact, yeah, you do see a trend. You do see that like Josh has 50 times, 50 occurrences of I was the last teacher before
Ah,
cancellation. And that fucking hurts people's feelings. But you have to buffer it as an owner if you're going to do this and be like, hey, like this isn't like we're not going to like give you shit on this, but this is a number that's good to look at because it comes with, and you have to have this too, a belief. And the belief is one single Pilates class, yoga class, bar class can completely change your life. It's that belief. It's like you take that class and you come out of it and you're like, I have, like, and how many people do we know, Terry, that are teachers that say this? I took the class and I came out and said, I have to fucking do this. We
I
know
mean,
so many people that describe that experience. So if you have this belief that the potential is there, if I was thinking about canceling and I took your class and after the class the next day I put my fucking cancellation in, I didn't have that class. If that happens 100 times in your class and only 4 in mine, it
That's,
says
it
something.
says something. Yeah.
I would look at it.
Yeah.
It's a
Wow.
real
That's a
gut
great
punch,
one.
that one.
That's
It's
a
a
real
real
gut
gut
punch.
punch, that one. Yeah.
And
That one might be more useful as a lead teacher or teacher mentor at first rather than giving to the group because they won't know how to interpret it and it'll stir things it will stir things up, I'm telling you for sure.
yeah, and it's pretty, I mean, it's pretty simple, i.e. simple, I mean, process
Hmm.
wise. It's just you get the
Yep.
cancellation, you go into the client account, you process, then you look and see visits, yeah. And then you just have a spreadsheet.
Oh, you know what I just thought of? I haven't done this yet. This would be interesting. You could add this to your cancellation form. Who is the teacher of your last class?
Yeah,
It might not be true. Like they might put down not the name of the teacher whose last class they took, but it would be interesting to be who do they remember? They're like, oh, the last guy I took Terry's. That would be an interesting data point. Okay. Profitability. Last thing for this. This is especially because the Wallace system does it. You can calculate this by looking at like your total profit versus your total expenses versus your average revenue per visit in a studio. And then you can look at that versus averages of a teacher, and you can see like how much profit their classes theoretically bring in. Profit is it's like revenue in minus expenses and or revenue in minus what you pay them for the class, which is a good one to look at too. And what you might find is you have a teacher who has above average attendance but below average profitability. And so that's why that number's good as the owner to know, because that's where it's like, I've got this rock star teacher, but then you realize, so what, their class is full, and so what, whatever, everyone likes them. You're like pretty much losing money every time they teach. And if you want proof of this in the industry, I think about in San Francisco, the Yoga Tree and some of these other bigger brands that like had a moment in the sun where they were like, we're talking 100 people classes all the time. And rock star teachers to this day that still have a following and still have online stuff and are like, they still fill a room up. I also know behind the scenes they were getting 200, 250, $300 a class.
it wasn't sustainable.
It's like it wasn't sustainable. And so the whole idea of like, if I just pay my teachers more, they're going to do a better job and they'll be happier and whatever, like it just doesn't work like that.
Yeah, and this, I know we're getting close to time here, but, and that is something like you just described, is that's a problem with paying per head. I've
Yeah.
never liked the paying per head because the paying per head is I could fill, I'm that rock star teacher. I fill my class. It's nothing but drop-ins, guest passes, class, whatever. That's what, so either if you're listening to this and you're paying per head, I'd really rethink that strategy, particularly based on their profitability, and look at it as maybe there are things that are exempt, right? It's they are not if because if they're filling their classes and the only people that are doing it are not the members and the people that bring you the revenue, then why are you paying per head? It's I'd like again in
Yeah.
the performance pay structure, you're paying based on these metrics as we talked about, and that has nothing to do. It has more to do with, like I said, filling your class, yes, but also retention. And that's what makes up for that paying per head, is that having an offset. Okay, if you want to pay per head, but let's have an offset of what's the retention, because there's
Yeah.
an incongruency there. I guarantee you there's an incongruency there.
Very often, pay per head isn't inherently like wrong. It inherently comes with a few major issues.
And
But
it's not
I think
incentivizing the teachers for what you really want them to do either.
no, that's usually the case. It's where it falls apart if it's just the only pay metric, right? Is it creates internal dissension amongst the ranks because then you're competing for the class at times that inherently are going to get more people. And so it's more important for me as a teacher to try to get to a good class time very often.
And not promote
And
other
so
people and not promote other teachers'
it makes me
classes.
not want to promote other classes. And then if we look at it juxtaposed with like, what would you tell a student to do to succeed? We're going to tell them to come back consistently. And if you only teach twice a week, is that enough? Like
No.
old school, we forget old school yoga. If you asked a guru, how often should I
Every
practice?
day.
Every day. What are you talking about? It's not even, they're like, you get
Like
to have
brushing your
Saturday,
teeth.
you can have Saturdays off. That's what they used to say. Six
Yeah.
days a week. You can have Saturdays off if you want. It was every day. I'm not saying that's the right message, but I'm saying whatever. Anyways, practicing more is the key. So it's incongruent with that. But the other piece of this is on the business side, and this is our coaching philosophy because we've seen it a bazillion times over and over, and because let me say this as clearly as I can, without exception. I don't mean most of the time. I don't mean almost all the time. I mean 150 fucking percent of the time. Every studio that we work with that's doing 7 figures plus in a single location and is legitimately high profit and legitimately has culture in the studio that people are happy and pumped and want to be there. It's like a magnetic studio or super performers runs a model based on membership, community, bigger, longer term practice, not drop ins. And so if you pay teachers per head, to your point, that you're incentivizing the antithesis of that.
Yeah.
You're incentivizing just get individuals into your individual class instead of incentivizing join our community and
Community.
group and our movement. And in doing so, you're probably going to be on a membership and just come back as like be physically in this space as often as you can.
I'm I love that 100%. And here's a final thought. I have no hard data for this. It's just a gut feeling, intuition that I've been thinking as we've been talking today, Josh, is oftentimes I think adding another thing to that crushing it category for studios
Mm.
is, and I might do some research on this, is my gut tells me that the studios are absolutely crushing it. Guess what? Their teachers are practicing at the studio.
Yes. Yes. No, I don't even need to look at the data.
Okay,
Uh,
because I also
Absolutely.
I hear this all
Absolutely.
the time. My teachers, no, yeah, they don't even use they don't practice here. They teach one class a week and they don't practice here.
Yeah.
And so I do think that is a problem, is that if your teachers aren't practicing your community, that for them to help build the retention, to help get people into their class, one of the absolute best ways to do that is to take yoga at your yoga studio and
Yeah.
talk to people and invite people. That's what I used to do. It's like, uh, Josh, oh my gosh, it's so great to see you. Haven't seen you in a while. Hey, I'm subbing this weekend. I know you like to practice on the weekends. I'm subbing on Saturday. I'd hope to see you in class.
Yeah.
Right? And it's just like, and students like it when the teachers
Yeah.
practice. I mean, like, no, I had a decent peak room practice. At one point, I had an awesome standing head to knee. Um, that's my favorite posture. Anyway, I'd set up. You're going to practice next to me today, Terri?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. Oh, wow.
It was a requirement in our studio.
Yeah.
I say requirement because it was legitimately a requirement. Now, legally, are you allowed to do that or not? Depending on where you are in the world, I don't know. But I'm telling you right now, yes, if you have a studio of teachers who practice and take class, it means way the fuck more than you think. Here, the whole like narrative of like, oh, well, they practice at home. Well, then why the fuck would you tell a student to come to your class?
Yeah.
Just tell them to practice at home. What are we talking about? But here's the worst case scenario that we've seen. There'll be a town that's got like whatever, a few yoga studios in it. One yoga studio will be struggling, and then we talk to their teachers, and this is physically on the ground when I was traveling. I experienced this 2 or 3 times, and it was really interesting. Because what ended up happening was we'd realize, we're like, well, how come you guys aren't practicing in this class, or what's happening with your practice? They're like, oh no, I practice like 2 or 3 days a week over at the other studio. And I was like, holy shit, like that's worse than teaching at the other studio. What does that tell people
Yeah.
when they see like, my goodness. Anyways, that is a
Okay.
part, that is a piece of the puzzle.
Josh and I could go forever. So
We
I
better wrap it
think
up.
we got to wrap it up. So
We better
let's
wrap
just
this up.
officially call this a wrap. So that is a wrap for this week's Weekly Roundup. Tune in every Friday and make sure you subscribe to Studio Cult TV on Spotify, iTunes, YouTube, or wherever you're listening from. We'll see you next week.
Peace.
Peace. Bye.